Salutations, everybody! Welcome back to Total Warhammer 3. I'm Lord Forwind, and today we are going to do a battle guide for the vampire counts. Specifically, we'll be using Vlad. We're not going to do any of the special sub things. We're just going to do a general one. If this guide helps you, like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. And just remember that this is a basics guide. It is not the definitive guide to vampire counts. There are people who have come up with much better ones. So I picked the Empire as our general faction to fight, mainly because the Empire is one of these factions in campaign maps that you end up fighting if you play Vlad. Other ones could have been the Tomb Kings, but honestly the vampires would wreck those. So let's start building our army. So the Empire here, solid units all around, plenty of war machines. I let the AI auto-generate the army, so they didn't actually build any Hellstorm rocket batteries, which might have been a better move for them, but we'll let the AI go with what they picked. So very solid infantry line, backed up by good range, decent cav, and a wizard and a warrior priest. So let's talk about the strengths of the vampires, and then we will start probably a offensive battle, and then we'll follow it up by a defensive battle. So to start, we've picked Vlad. We've made sure that Vlad has got his customizations here. He's really strong. And let's see, what do we need for heroes? Well, we want at least one necromancer, mainly because the necromancer will give the healing. The vampires specialize in having units that just don't die. The weakness of the vampires is that on average, their units are weaker than their opponents. There are some exceptions, but the big thing they bring is the ability to heal and resurrect dead units on the battlefield, meaning as long as you go basically even with the people you're fighting as the vampires, you'll tend to win a war of attrition, assuming you use your spells properly. So we've got at least one necromancer. Let's see. They've got mages, so we'll probably throw in a white king. Make sure he's on a horse, so I don't have to wait for him to walk across the battlefield. And this guy, yep, he's on Unholy Lodestone, which gives him, yep, here we go, automatic healing in the area, which will help. Plus, he's a Master of the Dead, so he heals as well. So just being around him, the undead will be healing 0.15% of their health per second, which will be quite nice. I might honestly bring a second one of him, but let's see if we've got space. So we've got a vast variety of units. The lower ones, like zombies, aren't going to be very useful in this battle. So honestly, I'm thinking grave guards, probably. They've got some heavy armored units, so we definitely need anti-armor, but I think our main line of grave guards here will take 4. Hard to go wrong with these guys. They're really solid. We could bring some grave guards with great weapons to pierce any armor. That might be a good strategy. We could bring some Karn Wraiths, which are hard to hit because they're they're basically ghosts. Yeah, let's bring a couple of those. And they've got decent range, so we need some flying units or something to wreck them. So let's bring a Terrorgeist. Let's bring at least 2 Vargulfs to smash their front lines. Non-flying. This is a flying unit. Okay, we'll bring at least one of those. Those 2 flying units together should be able to take out their range units. A little bit worried about the steam tanks. They only have 2 cav units, though. So we should be able to wreck them with some nicely used Blood Knights, which are arguably one of the best cav units in the game. I'll bring a Hex Wraith in case we have to get into more melee. We're going to also bring another Mortis engine. Now what do we want to do? I think I'll bring another Necromancer, actually. More regen is always a good thing. Technically, we could bring these, get some range, but I'm not going to do that because those are not available to everybody at all times. Sometimes, if this was an unarmored, you could bring Crypt Ghouls, but they're weak against armor, and the Empire tends to have armor, but they're better against factions that are less armored. Honestly, let's see how to cap this one off. I really don't know how to cap this one off. I mean, there's a lot of options. I guess we'll bring a black coach. Hard to go wrong with one of those. And we are attacking. So I picked a pretty standard Empire map to fight on. Okay, so as you can see, Empire grasslands. Picked it because this is largely where you'd be fighting the Empire. Let's grab our flying units, group those together. Let's see, our front line, our anti-armor units. Vlad and the White King should go together. Our 2 necromancers honestly shouldn't be together, but I might put them together just so I can find them quickly. Cav units. Yep. Do the Blood Knights together. Keep the Hex Wraith separate, I think. Pull back the Mortis engine. Honestly, how fast is this compared to our... We'll add the Black Coach to the Blood Knight units. Or Vargulfs. I'll group them, but I'm not going to use them together. And the Mortis engine will stay in the background. Okay. So let's talk about strategies for the vampires. Since we have no range, and we have 1, 2, 3 spellcasters, we're not going to win a battle of spellcasting. We have to close ground with the Empire fairly quickly. If they brought artillery, it would have been a bigger problem. But what we have to do is try and smash their front line to get to their archers in the back line and then route them that way. We're going to rely on our flying units to soar over their front line and get to artillery or archers or even mages. While our front line here tanks the initial wave of damage, we'll come in with our armor piercing damage dealers to take out their units once they're engaged in melee, while our cav hopefully wins on the flanks and then turns into the center. Meanwhile, backing it all up with a nice combination of Invocation of Nehex, which will heal, and just being in the area with our Mortis engine and stuff. Whereas our lords, we're going to keep them relatively safe. The last thing we want to do is engage other lords with them at the beginning. Vlad is an exception. He could probably win, but we don't want to risk losing our lords because that's a major weakness of the vampire accounts. So let's see. So they've got Demigryphs and a steam tank on that flank. Same thing on a Reichsguard over there, and then the rest of their units are in a pretty standard front line. They are going to be able to start attacking us from the beginning, so we have to adapt to that. So the Empire tends to just... sorry, not the Empire. The vampire accounts tend to just charge at the enemy, so that's pretty much what we're going to do to some degree, but it's being smart about how we do it that's going to matter. Those Demigryphs are going to wreck our Blood Knights, which is a problem. So, let's call in advance, I guess. Oh, yeah, we got to protect our necromancers, but for now, we can start everything moving forward. Oh, they've got some huntsmen there. Not what I wanted to see. So our Hex Rays should smash those Reichsguard. We're going to struggle a bit here, unfortunately, but I don't have much option. Okay, let's see where we're at. Does anything need healing? The one thing you got to be aware of as the vampires is what units of yours are taking damage so that you can try and get some healing on them. Especially single entity units. You don't want to lose single entities if you can help it. We're having some trouble with our single entities, as I was worried about. On the other hand, we won there, so that's good. I'm going to try and get Gelt. Our units on the right here have been absolutely wrecked. That's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. Can't say I'm the best with this faction and it's showing, so heal that guy. These guys need to be a lot closer to the battlefield. Oh, these guys won, actually, surprisingly. Try and kill off their lords. These guys are actually doing decently well, which is shocking. Now, we do have spell damage, so we're going to cast that, and we're going to hit... Oops. We're going to hit all those units with a spell. Cast, of course, by the one and only Vlad. Oh, we didn't actually manage to wreck the enemy cav as much as I thought we did. Boy, those steam tanks hang on there, don't they? That's the power of the steam tanks. So I'm actually gonna get this again. See, I keep healing this Terrorgeist, so it's still alive and fighting. That hurts a bit, though. One there. That steam tank is still doing really well. That other steam tank's struggling a bit. Now, the steam tank's not getting kills, it's just not dying. Ow. Gelt. There we go. We won. So, as you can see, even though we broke their lines initially, their strong units, mainly their steam tanks, held out a lot longer than we would have liked. We arguably, I don't... these Cairn Race did the best against the steam tank, but the vampires do struggle against heavy armored units quite a bit. Our Blood Knights here, even though they're strong, they're still not quite capable of actually damaging this effectively. For that, we need the Cairn Race and heroes. This guy should make all the difference once he gets there, unless it's already dead. There we go. Victory on all accounts. And the cool thing is, even though this looks like a bad victory for us, we lost a lot of units. Vampire units, if you're on the campaign map, come back a good portion of the time at after a battle. So if you look at it, we've got a lot of our units back on the battlefield. Really, we only lost 2 units, and one of which is because I threw the black coach into an army of halberdiers just to tie up them so that my cav could actually finish winning the fight it was in. And considering we deployed less units but still won, that's because of these single entity units. Okay, so that was an offensive battle. So let's talk about a defensive battle. The reality is, I almost don't even need to show you this because almost all battles for the vampire accounts work out the same. You charge into the enemy. But we will pick a different race and we will do one there. So let's do... Empire is well-rounded. Something like the elves would be even easier to show because our cav would become more important. But let's do a Warriors of Chaos one. I don't think I've done one for them. And of course I have to go through and control this army because it's a bit out of control. Okay, I cleaned up their army a bit. Mainly it's getting rid of all the experience. So the Warriors of Chaos is actually one of the more annoying things for vampires to fight because they do have artillery. But outside of that, they're a very powerful, heavily armored melee faction. So we'll have to figure out how to fight all those guys. So let's clear all this. I'm going to leave both the necromancers on here just so that we have those. So, if we look at them, it's all melee. Basically, I think they have 1 or 2 ranged units, which is not even worth worrying about at this point. Lots of monsters. So we're going to have to do monster versus monster fights, which is going to be exciting. Because the one weakness the vampire accounts have, on top of poor armor damage, is they really only have 1 anti-large unit, and that's skeletal spearmen, which are going to get absolutely annihilated by the basic Chaos Warriors. So we're going to have to adapt a bit. So we're going to do a standard Graveguard wall. These guys are going to struggle because they're armored and the enemy is armor piercing, but we need them. I think we're going to go heavier into the Cairn Race. And in terms of Cav, they aren't bringing much to the battle. They've got a few chariots, so we're going to bring some Blood Knights. Probably only 3, because at some point we're going to get past these units and it's just going to come down to a slugfest in the middle. I think they also have a sorcerer, right? Yeah. A Slaneshi Lord and a Chaos Sorcerer. Delightful. We're definitely going to bring some Varagulfs. You know, I think I will bring 1 Terrageist, just so I can fly over the enemy if need be. And a Mortis Engine. Honestly, I think I'll bring 1 less Blood Knight. Bring something else instead. Might bring a Crypt Horror, to be honest. But if I'm going to bring a Crypt Horror, probably better bring something else. I'll do a Crypt Horror just so that I can show you guys how they are used. So it's going to be the same battle map, and we'll deploy to fight them. Okay, here we are. So since we're playing a purely melee faction, I actually get to show you some more interesting tactics than the standard box in the corner blast with range and artillery that you might have seen in some of my other videos. So let's do this. Now, it's not to be said that that strategy isn't good, it's just not as ideal in this circumstance. So let's pull what we've got all together. 2 melee lords, 2 necromancers, flying unit. We could theoretically try and match them on the front line here, but I am going to try to do something slightly different, which is to do an offset front line. So while a front line works, and we definitely could just station our healing units behind it and heal away the whole time, we're going to try something different. The biggest thing for us to be wary of is they have a hell cannon, which is really good artillery unit. So we're going to have to either we'd have to charge, making it more of an offensive than defensive, or we'll have to set our units back a distance into our territory so that the artillery can't blast us at the start of the battle. So we're going to do something like this, just to keep those guys out of control. As a matter of fact, we might even just do that. That would probably work. Still a solid front line, but now I can station these units behind them easier. Core of Grave Guards backed up by Hex Race on the side. It's not great, but it should do. We'll keep our Vargulfs behind the lines. Deploy them once the battle starts. Same thing for our Kirkghouls and our main heroes. Terrorgeist. I'll actually put him a little bit forward. I may have to rush him forward and try and kill that Hell Cannon. Plus he's got a range ability. So yeah, I'm actually going to set these a little bit further. Well, we're getting into some trouble here with the terrain, which is annoying. A little bit further back. Okay, I think this is probably the best setup we're going to get here. It's going to come down to one heck of a slugfest. The only thing we can rely on is hopefully our Vargulfs are going to be better than their Chaos Spawns, which I'm pretty sure they are, so we shouldn't have to worry too much about that. And hopefully they don't just march up and then blast with the Hell Cannons. See if we can get a breath attack off on the Chaos Horsemen. They're rather pathetic range unit. I'm not kidding. These things are not that great as range units, but it's pretty much the only range stuff they get. We actually can't catch them. That's hilarious. Oh, and a problem potentially. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. No, you can't do it at all. Look at him. You can't even get to it. Okay, let's back off. We don't want to get into a melee fight. Here's what I was worried about. They're not charging super fast. They're just going to march into range and hit us with artillery. Oh well. They did the right move here. They sent their skirmish cav up against my unit there. It was a smart move on their part. The only downside is that they don't do much damage. We're still going to back off, though. We can't win that exchange. Yep. Okay. They're in range to start hitting us, which is going to be a problem, but not I can do about it at the moment, other than hope it doesn't wreck all my good units. We do get a passive heal over time, so we've got to take advantage of that fact. They've got chariots, and they're sending up the chariots against Cav. I actually don't know who wins this matchup. They might, because they're armor piercing, but Cav charges hurt. Plus they're 4 entity units. So actually looks like we're probably going to win that exchange. Meanwhile, we just kind of unfortunately have to tank this damage. But guess what? Vampires specialize in damage tanking. Pull off, because they're rushing in. Hit those guys. They've got their regenning stuff, but we might be able to do some damage. Yeah. Send the Terrorgeist against the back line. Hey, we won on this front. That's great. So let's charge in on the Chosen of Slaanesh, who are whip infantry, which should get absolutely wrecked by Cav. That is annoying, how much damage they've done to that one unit. We still haven't even gotten into main combat and my units are dying. It's the power of artillery. Okay. We want to make sure that we get some charge here. Actually, we don't really need a charge in the front lines here. But here we want to charge. Weaken the dragon ogres. Send my main units in. Hopefully to kill off stuff like chaos trolls. Chaos spawns are going to be a problem. Guess what? The Chosen of Slaanesh dying. I'm not too surprised there. I'm going to actually weaken the Chosen of Zeech there, so they're less effective. I'm actually going to summon some skeletons behind their lines. Taking advantage of the fact that the vampire counts can get more units on the battlefield than almost anyone else. This unit's getting wrecked. I'm not too surprised. This guy needs to get into combat. Get a nice hit off there if we can. Oh, my Hex Wraith won on the flank. That's good. These guys are struggling, though. The downside of a lot of Slaaneshi units is they are tanky and defensive. Even if they don't get kills, they don't die. In fact, they are getting kills, which is a problem. We're going to ignore them, flank them there. I should task. Where's Vlad? Vlad and the Hexwraith King, go kill those guys. Out of control, euphoric. Got euphoric units, everybody. Victory on that front, which is good, because I need them elsewhere. Oh, that was only a zombie unit we summoned. Oops. See if we can get off a nice flank here. Yes, we're charging Cav into the rear of Halabard units, but it should work. Chaos Giant's a problem. It's odd. Huh. Okay. Whatever, game. Just trying to heal a unit. It's not letting me heal them. Strange. Well, my undead dragon unit is in fact winning the battle on the back line there. That's why I sent it there. Hey, the cannon's dead. So since we've pretty much obviously won this battle, what did the AI do wrong? What the AI did wrong was actually getting into melee combat with us. There was no real reason they should have engaged when they did. They had the superior range units, so they should have been able to just bombard us endlessly at range, but they didn't. Oops, this guy's dying. Oh, we won. So all told, very easy victory on our behalf there. If the AI had deployed their troops better, they might have won. But vampires have very strong melee units. The Cairn race here, against a lot of units, they're ineffective. And if the AI had brought anything with magic, magical armor or weapons, we would have been in trouble. But as you can see, not a lot of kills outside of the Cairn race. They did their job and they held out. And all told, we didn't kill most of their units. We just didn't die while fighting them. That's basically the vampires. Even that Graveguard that was getting artilleried from a distance survived. Although we did do a lot of healing on him. And that made a difference. The Necromancers, the Mortis Engines, so long as they're alive, my units were getting continuously replenished. All told, it made a big difference. I would say the biggest mistake the AI made was this army was not capable of hitting ethereal units. Plus their Chaos Giants were isolated. They lost on the flank versus my Cav. They lost 2 whole units fighting over there, and they left their cannon exposed. If this guy had been alive longer, or they had just stayed back and blasted it, they could have turned it into me attacking them, where they probably would have had the advantage. So anyway, that's to some degree the vampire. For defense, you pretty much have to rely on the fact units don't die, so you keep them closer together, rely on healing stuff. Mortis Engines and Necromancers are your bread and butter for keeping your units alive, and you rely on the fact that Graveguards just are monstrous tanks. They're hard to kill, they take a while, and periodically they will fear the enemy around them, which is great. So the enemies run away more often. You just got to protect your lords and single entity units. The Vargulfs didn't carry the battle, but if it had gone on longer, they probably would have. So the other option we could have tried was the straight line formation, which I said we could have done. If we had done that, I would have stationed our Vargulfs along it, or all in one place, and hoped to gain numerical and unit superiority in that point, punch through the enemy's lines, and then turn on one of the flanks if whichever side I broke in on, focus on the smaller side and overwhelm them. Because the Graveguards are great at tying down units. What ended up happening was our Cairn race on the left won, but on the right they lost. So we just pulled everything from the left side. We folded around and flanked them. And then it was just a rout down the front line. Thankfully, our center held with the Graveguards, which is what I expected would happen. And man, Vlad is just a monstrous fighter. I could have almost charged him into the battle on his own at the beginning, and he might not have died, as long as we could have gotten all those wonderful heals off. Best vampire spell, probably. Resurrects, heals injured. Definitely make sure you bring 1, if not 2, to every battle, basically. If you don't have a healer in your vampire army, you're not playing the vampires right. Pretty much. So anyway, that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys all for watching. Hopefully it helps you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And like, comment, subscribe, all those stuff. And check out the other ones. Bye for now.